All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Hope you are doing great. Today is Friday, April 12th. Welcome to TNC. This is TNC 371, the Neutral Corner episode 371. And we got much to catch up on today. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm sorry it's been a while. I know it's been a while, but you guys know that I'm busy right now. There's a lot going on in my life, and it's just, the schedule hasn't been loaded enough recently to jump on and find the time to do a show every week. Now that's going to change very soon, obviously, right? But right now it's been a little slow. And so I've used this time to catch up on some other stuff. And of course, everything with my kids, it's kind of crazy. By the end of this month, my daughters will be 6 months and 18 months. And so my youngest is going to hit that 6-month mark. And generally speaking, when they hit that mark, things start getting a little bit easier. You start sleeping a little longer through the night, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so going into the spring and in the summer, we're going to be having more frequent shows. But thank you for sticking with me and for riding this out with me. I appreciate it, guys. As always, I remind you, make sure that you're subscribed here on YouTube. You click that notification bell. And or if you're listening on the podcast, the audio, wherever you listen, whatever platform, make sure you're subscribed there. And leave a rating, leave a review, thumbs up, heart, whatever symbol they have to give a nod, a thumbs up or whatever, like the video or the podcast. Please do that. And always, as always, pay the fee. And that fee is non-monetary. I just ask that you guys spread the word about the show. Share the show, whether it's the podcast version that you're listening to or this video here on YouTube that you're watching, whatever it is, just spread the word, okay? That's all I ask. I ask you to do that for every single week or every single show that we put on. And that's the fee. That's it. Okay, let's get started. Lots of news to cover. First item, the next digital issue of the Ring magazine. So I've told you guys this several times, but the print magazine, of course, is no longer going. Although once or twice a year, we're probably going to do a printed release for like special issues. But it's not monthly. But there's a digital magazine every month that's on the site. And I wrote an article about this great schedule coming up in May that I call Boxapalooza. Those of you who are old enough, you remember Lollapalooza, the concert series. And so I call it Boxapalooza, and that's going to be in the next issue of the Digital Ring magazine. So you guys can check that out. Also, look, I needed a break, guys, from just writing and stuff for a while, again, because of the kids and all that. I just needed to focus on that 100%. I'm starting to get back into writing a little bit more. I'm back on the Ring Ratings Committee, so I'm contributing there and to the ratings. So we can start talking about that stuff again if you guys want to talk about ratings. I'm back in that process. I'm just getting more and more engaged with that stuff again. But for a while, dude, the first 6 months or so of life with 2 kids, 2 within a year, I needed more time to myself. So anyway, I'm getting more involved. The next issue, you can check out my article on Boxapalooza. We have a super chat from my man, Ray Valera. Thank you so much, Ray. He says, welcome back, Mike. I appreciate it, Ray. And welcome to you, sir. Welcome back to the show. Hope you guys enjoy it, man. All right. Let's continue here. All right. So I'm just going to jump right into this one. Jaron Boots Ennis signs a deal with Matchroom Boxing. That's Eddie Hearn, Matchroom, and of course, if it's Eddie Hearn, it's Matchroom. That means the Zone. So Jaron Boots Ennis is going to be a fighter who fights on the Zone going forward. Now, it remains to be seen what kind of things he can do. He's going to be, I think he has a belt right now at 147. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Let me look this up because I don't want to screw this up. I want to just make sure, because I remember he had a portion of a belt, and I want to say he was elevated to a full champion or something, but I don't remember. Yes. Okay. So the IBF, that's right. My memory serves me correctly. Elevated him to the full champion, right? So because I think he was the mandatory for Terrence Crawford. What I find interesting is the IBF let Errol Spence go without a mandatory for years. But Terrence Crawford wasn't even given half a year before they stripped him and gave the full title to Jaron Ennis. It's the politics of this stuff is so one-sided in recent years. Anyway, so he's got a belt at welterweight. The rest of the belts currently Terrence Crawford has. Do I think Crawford and Ennis are going to fight? Absolutely not. I think Crawford is going to move up to 154 and look to get a title there in another weight class. He can move up right now and fight Sebastian Fundora and become the unified champ at junior middleweight. Now, do I think Fundora's management will make that fight? Absolutely not. I'm just saying he's going to try to go up in weight and get a belt there, or just go for a high-profile fight. I wouldn't even rule out something like Canelo versus Crawford in the near future. So either way you slice it, the welterweight division is going to get broken up. All the titles are going to get released at some point. Crawford's either going to be stripped or he's going to vacate when he moves up in weight or goes for a big money fight. He's not going to fight his mandatories. And so all the titles are going to be broken up. And Jaron Ennis is now in a position with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom. Look, they're going to have trouble finding opponents. The Errol Spences and the Terrence Crawfords of the world, even the guys at 154, the top guys at 54, they're not going to want to fight Ennis. He's a premier talent, and he brings zero reward and unbelievably high risk, right? So they're going to have trouble finding opponents, but Eddie Hearn is plugged in enough and powerful enough in the boxing business. He's going to be able to use the sanctioning body system to elevate Ennis and get him lined up for fights that way. So this is good for Jaron Ennis, and I do think it's very telling that he went with a non-American promoter. That's very interesting. Obviously, it comes down to money, and Eddie Hearn probably threw a boatload of money at him. But you would think on the surface that he would sign with PBC to manage him and fight exclusively on their platform. He had been fighting almost exclusively on PBC for the bulk of his career, at least in recent years in his career. So he was, while not being promoted or managed by PBC officially, he was absolutely in a business relationship. He was associated with PBC. And everyone, I think, naturally kind of assumed that that's where he would sign and he would be their next guy that they could bring up. And he jumps over and signs with Eddie Hearn. So it was a bit of a surprise move. I got to talk about this. I saw that news and I tweeted, and a lot of you guys out there responded to the tweet, but I retweeted, I think it was a Matchroom tweet where they talked about, they signed Jaron Ennis, and I retweeted it and I said, the cult will not be happy with this. LOL, right? Obviously it's a joke. It's a tongue-in-cheek kind of tweet, which I do a lot. And most of you, like 99% of you, appreciated it and you knew exactly what I was getting at. But there was that 1% of you out there who got so offended. You were so upset. There were even people making podcasts about it. Not that I knew about any of it, but some of you guys out there sent some of that stuff to me and said, man, check this out, what they're saying about you. I find it to just be hilarious because the people that responded so angrily and passionately to my tweet prove exactly why I call them the cult, because they behave like a cult. And let me be clear about a few things, okay? I just give you guys an exclusive here. When I use the term the cult, okay, I just want to put this on record because a lot of things are said about me that are just so untrue. It's insane how some people can have some of the viewpoints they have. The cult is not a race. It's not a racial group. It is not a nationality. It is not a gender. It is an ideological worldview. It is not one particular member of the media or group in media. It is not a particular YouTuber or podcaster or group of podcasters or YouTubers. It's a loosely connected grouping of very, very radical, overly passionate, overly biased, irrational fans, media members, people who work at networks, promotions, all combined, okay? And I'm speaking specifically right now about the PBC cult. I fully recognize that there's a Matchroom cult, there's a Top Rank cult, there's a DAZN cult, there's an ESPN cult, there's a Canelo cult, there's a Tyson Fury cult, there's a Deontay Wilder cult. which falls under the umbrella of the PBC cult, obviously. Now, though, that's changing now because he's kind of jumped ship. This is changing now. But the cult that I deal with, and maybe it's just because I'm in America, and so maybe some of you guys in the UK, you deal more with the Matchroom cult and stuff like that. But the cult that I troll a lot is mostly the PBC cult, because that's the biggest one we have here in the United States, and they're the loudest. They have the loudest megaphone, and they do have inroads to legitimate members of the boxing media and different platforms and network people and stuff. Here's the thing, guys. You all know the type of dudes I'm talking about, okay? You guys see the post. You can't avoid these people. You've seen the tweets. You've seen the Facebook post, the message board post. You've seen the crazy YouTube videos and podcasts with all these insane conspiracy theories, racializing everything, politicizing everything, just making crap up out of thin air. Remember the whole Glovegate thing with Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder? The freak out after Spence and Crawford, the freak out after Fulton, in a way, I can continue. You guys have seen the behavior from these people, right? So when I said, and again, it was a joke. It's just a joke. When I said the cult will not be happy with this, the 1% of you out there who get so upset, guess what? You're part of the cult. I wanted to show you guys this real quick, and then I promise we'll move on, okay? But I wanted to, I call them the cult because they behave like a cult. So I Googled characteristics of a cult, and I'm going to share my screen. We're going to check this out. And there were several links that popped up, but here's one that just lists a few of these bullet points. And I'm not going to read all these, okay? I'm just really quickly. The first one here says, the group or cult displays an excessively zealous or unquestioning commitment to its leader. Holy shit, does that sound familiar? The next one, questioning, doubt, or dissent are discouraged or even punished. Boom! I mean, you get attacked. Let me real quick pause. When I attack, and you guys who watch the show, you know I have been beating the shit out of DAZN, which is Eddie Hearn Matchroom mostly, for the last 2 years. I've made it very, very public that I don't subscribe. I beat the living hell out of ESPN and Top Rank with the whole lineal Tyson Fury thing, the trash pay-per-views against Chisora and White. I never got attacked by those people. I was openly critical. Now, I might not be their favorite person, but I didn't get attacked. When I criticize anything related to Al Heyman or any of the fighters, Gervonta Davis, whatever it is, and these are very legitimate criticisms, I get attacked, and you guys get attacked. I've seen you guys get attacked. Okay. So again, back to these characteristics. I'm only going to read a few of these. Okay. This fifth one down here. Check this out. The group is elitist, claiming a special exalted status for itself, its leaders, and its members. The leader is considered a messiah, a special being. I mean, come on, guys. This is like word for freaking word. I mean, this is how they behave. And then the next one. The group has a polarized us versus them mentality, which may cause conflict with the wider society. Holy shit. Is this whoever wrote this? Were they watching Leonard Ellerby's Twitter feed when they wrote this? The leader is not accountable to any authorities. What does that sound like? There's constant moving of goalposts, right? And the double standard, no standard. Okay, I can continue going on here, but you guys get the point. This is why I call them the cult. That's it. It's literally that simple. So for some of you to get so upset about it, there's your explanation. It's only going to make you more upset, especially if you're a member already. But every time those of you out there freak out and respond to my little post, you just prove why I make the posts and why my terminology is so spot on. You just prove you're a member of the cult. All right. Now, super chat from 1 Foot Out the Door. Thank you so much. He says, you are either with us or against us mentality. That's it. That's exactly it. That's cult-like behavior and logic. And that is exactly what you see from the people I call the cult. And I fully recognize that it goes in all directions and there are cults for every platform, every fighter even. But the biggest one, the loudest one, and the most powerful one in the American boxing community is the cult I'm talking about. Okay. Let's move on. So anyway, Jaron Ennis signing with Matchroom is a good thing. I do think it's a good thing, and I think it's going to make him a lot more relevant. Do I think he'll stay with Matchroom forever? No. I think that he's going to win titles there, build up his name, and then he's probably going to move on and sign with somebody else afterwards, but Eddie will serve him well. Okay, let's talk real quick. The Canelo versus Munguia undercard was announced. I know I should mention this. It's not very good. It's basically a bunch of interim and regular belts. Look, what do you expect? It's Canelo. 99% of the purse, the whole thing is going to the main event, which is most big Vegas pay-per-views, let's be honest, but particularly when it's Canelo, right? He's taking 90% of the entire purse, and then maybe 9% is going to Munguia and 1% to the rest of the event, all right? Those are the economics of the event. So while the undercard is very lackluster, I still think that's going to be a really fun main event. It's going to kick off a great May that goes into early June. I still can't think of a better 4-week schedule of fights ever. I really can't. And I hope it plays out to all be really great fights. I hope so. But I do think Canelo versus Munguia is going to be such a fun fan atmosphere. And the styles are so good. The way the styles are going to mesh together, particularly where Canelo's at in his career, where I do believe he's lost a half a step. It's going to be a fun fight, guys. So I still think it's definitely worth your dollars as a pay-per-view fan. Now, look, if you had to choose between that fight and, let's say, Beater BF Beevil, I'm going with the light heavyweight fight. That's also going to be a better card because of some of the heavyweight action that's been added to that card. But, like, if you can afford both, I think they're both worth your money for different reasons. Okay, one last thing here I wanted to hit, and then we're going to get into review preview, okay? I did a poll on X that I asked you guys about how Gervonta Davis would do against 4 particular fighters. I highlighted 4 particular fighters because I wanted to see what you guys would think about this. And so what I did is at 135, I asked you guys who would win between Tank and Shakur Stevenson and Tank and Lomachenko. At 140, I asked you who would win between him and Devin Haney, him and Teofimo Lopez. I want to share these results with you guys because I found this to be pretty interesting. So I'm sharing my screen right now. Hopefully you guys can see all this, but this first one here, Tank versus Shakur Stevenson, 72% of you have Shakur points, and only 18% of you have Tank by, well, 18% have Tank by stoppage, 8% Tank point. So basically a quarter of you think Tank would win, 3/4 of you got Shakur. Over here, I got Gervonta Davis versus Devin Haney. And once again, it's about what? Almost 70% of you had Devin Haney, mostly Haney points. Only about maybe 1/3 of you had Tank in that fight. And then if I scroll down here, I can show you these other polls. Gervonta Davis versus Teofimo Lopez. This one was surprising to me because this was the tightest one. And I think that's because Teofimo Lopez has such up and down performances, right? He's hot and cold. You don't always know quite what he's going to bring. I should have maybe worded this better and said, you know, the best version of both fighters, whatever. Either way, even though this was the tightest, still, what is it? 60% of you had Teofimo Lopez winning this fight. Very interesting to me that even, you know, that many of you still favor Teo. But the most interesting result for me was I asked you guys, Gervonta Davis versus Vasily Lomachenko. They fight right now at 135. Who wins? And still, 63% of you think Lomachenko would win. Now, that surprised me. I actually thought the majority of you would pick Tank because of where he is at in his career, where Loma's at in his career. Loma being the smaller guy, the older guy, has had a lot more collectively, a lot more fights. If you include the amateurs, World Series of Boxing, all of it, been fighting much larger guys, been fighting much tougher opposition, right? I figured most of you would pick Tank, but still most of you have Loma winning that fight, which I find very, very interesting. So the total results for these polls, it was maybe 1,800 or so. So I get it, small sample size. It's not like it's millions of voters, but it's not like it was 20 or something either. Almost 2,000 separate specific opinions on those 4 particular matchups there from boxing fans around the world, you guys. And I find it very interesting. The trend there is that, generally speaking, about 2/3 to 3/4 of you felt Tank would lose all 4 of those matchups. And those are 4 completely different styles of fighters. Some of the styles work a little better for Tank, and maybe that's what the Tszyu thing was about, because I think Tszyu's style does work best for Tank, what he does and likes to do. But overall, I was surprised at those results, particularly with the Loma thing. But let's talk about this. What does this mean? Because Gervonta Davis is marketed as the face of boxing. Now, we all know that's not true. He's not even a top 5 brand globally. But you can make a very valid argument that he is the face of American boxing, particularly with the young, legitimate prize fighters in America. I say that because Jake Paul is more popular, more commercially viable, more popular than him, but I don't put Jake Paul, obviously, in the serious, legitimate contender bucket. Ryan Garcia is more popular. He's a bigger celebrity, particularly on social media, but I don't really take him seriously as a fighter. So of all the young, serious American fighters, okay, and obviously I'm not including Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson's a bigger brand. Floyd Mayweather's a bigger brand. They're not active fighters. I know Tyson's fighting. I get it. You guys here, stay with me, okay? You know what I'm saying. Of all the young American fighters, Gervonta Davis is the face of American boxing. I think that's been substantiated, at least with not really pay-per-view sales, but with his ticket sales and the social media traffic, okay, in particular communities especially. The hip-hop crowd, he's very, very popular. So he's the guy. If he's the face of American boxing, yet the majority of fans out there don't favor him to beat the elite, there's a disconnect there. There's dissonance there. And that's something that his team, his management has to fix, because the perception from fans doesn't equate to the brand that they're putting out there, okay? Cult members aside, to bring it full circle, cult members aside, most boxing fans don't favor him against the elite fighters. So his management has to do a better job of getting him in there against top-level talent and developing him to change that perception. Because I think for Gervonta Davis to become that crossover star that a lot of people expect him to become, the perception among fans has to meet with the branding, okay? And it hasn't yet. There's great dissonance between the two. So I thought that was interesting and wanted to bring it up. Hopefully you guys got something from that. I love doing those little polls and just getting an idea for what you guys out there think. I think it's important that we do more of that. Okay, review. Lots to review. So let's go Friday, March 29th. We're going to go a couple weeks back. Glendale, Arizona. Oscar Valdez, who had lost 2 of 3 coming into this fight, scored a TKO 7 win against Liam Wilson, wins an interim belt, junior lightweight belt. And then Senicia Estrada wins a unanimous decision over Yocasta Valle to be undisputed at minimum weight. The decision was somewhat controversial because some of the scorecards were wide, but I was cool with Estrada getting it. For my money, she's one of the best pound-for-pound female fighters in the world. And I've been saying that for years. Check the record. Saturday, March 30th in Las Vegas. Let's talk about this pay-per-view. This was the first PBC pay-per-view on Amazon Prime pay-per-view. By the way, no numbers have been released. It's been 2 weeks now. No numbers have been released. I do find it interesting that when other promotions put on pay-per-views, there are certain members of the media who can't wait to talk about the pay-per-view numbers. It's like they have an instant erection once the fight's over and they can get the pay-per-view numbers, and they just have to relieve themselves and tell everyone all about it. But when it comes to this particular promotion, those same people tend to not be as excited about expressing the pay-per-view numbers. So anyway, we don't know what the pay-per-view numbers are, but Sebastian Fundora with a split decision win over Tszyu in a bloody affair. He wins Tszyu's WBO belt and a vacant WBC belt at 154 pounds. It's junior middleweight. Tszyu was cut badly in the second round and fought the distance with a really bad cut, was bleeding. He busted Fundora's nose from punches. And so Fundora was bleeding. There was a lot of blood, but specific to the cut, a lot of questions have been asked, should the fight have been stopped? And, this brings up a whole series of questions that you could really start to dissect. If this fight had been in Australia and Tszyu had been cut in the second round, would the fight have been stopped? If it were Fundora who were cut very badly in the second round, and let's say he won the first round and then was winning the second round and got cut, which Tszyu is clearly winning those early rounds. So let's say he's up 2-0 and then gets cut. Would they have stopped the fight? An American fighter, the establishment guy, the house fighter, he gets cut. Would they have stopped the fight and gone to a no contest or something? Or would they have tried to wait until after the fifth round and go to scorecards? All these questions pop up. Then should Tszyu have even gone through with this fight? I've heard people asking that question because this was a last-minute replacement. Fundora is literally a foot taller. That's not an exaggeration. He is a foot taller than Keith Thurman and fights completely different than him. Keith Thurman's a semi-retired flute-playing hippie who, Tszyu was preparing for that. And then to go in there against a guy in his physical prime who's literally a foot taller and do that on 2 weeks notice or something? It was very short notice. That's asking a lot. And to do that on foreign territory in the guy's backyard, okay, knowing that he's the house fighter, all of that. And Tszyu went forward with it. Now, obviously, I think as a fighter, he deserves tremendous credit for that. I mean, the balls, right? We know damn sure that 99% of guys in his situation in this era would have said, nah, we're going to reschedule this. We're just going to push it back a few months. No, I'm good. But he went forward with it. And now it's cost him his first loss. Now, I don't think this is going to hurt his brand in Australia. If anything, it may have increased his brand because he fought through the blood. He fought the last-minute replacement, all the things I just said, where most people would not have. I think among diehard fight fans, it's going to increase his branding. The question is, what does this do for him long-term? Because now, he had a belt. Now he has no belts. So he's in a position where he has to kind of go along to get along. And instead of being in the driver's seat. And this is the debate. And this is the debate among fans and pundits and media people all the time of should a fighter sit out or should they go forward with a situation like this, right? And you could make a valid argument both ways. As fans of fighters, we just want to see these guys fight. So we're always going to say, yeah, fight. But if you were managing the career of Tszyu in this situation, ask yourself this question. If you were in charge of his career, if you were his manager, and you're trying to develop the best possible career path for this guy, okay, and you think, man, we're going to be fighting for 10 more years, and here's what I have envisioned, would you have gone forward with this fight? It's an interesting question. It really is. So in the end, Fundora gets the split decision win. He threw more punches. He landed more punches total. Tszyu was a lot more accurate in his punching and landed the harder shots. He landed more power punches. So there was some debate about the scorecards. There were some people out there that thought that maybe Tszyu eked it out. But the fact that it was a split decision, and it was it was entertaining in that it was dramatic. It wasn't necessarily the most action-packed fight of all time, but it was dramatic. There was blood. It was close. There was an upset. Why not run it back? If they can do a rematch toward the end of this year, bring Tszyu right back to Vegas and do it again, why not? I think that would be fun. And it actually would sell better. And maybe PBC will be in a position at that point, maybe let's say it's the fourth quarter, where they can put that fight on regular Amazon. That I think that would be a real winner for them. I really, really do. Let's see what else. I got to say this too. This was masterful management from PBC, top to bottom. Sebastian Fundora was coming off a knockout loss, a bad, very, very bad knockout loss, very, very definitive knockout loss. He had a 1-year layoff, and he was coming into this card to fight for an interim belt on the undercard, right? That in and of itself was great management, them manipulating the sanctioning organization, which we know they're basically business partners, that particular organization with PBC. But when Thurman dropped out, and by the way, Thurman cited an injury. There has been zero proof provided. And you guys correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not fully engaged in the loop these days on the beat. But I haven't seen one shred of evidence that Keith Thurman was legitimately injured. I haven't seen an MRI, a doctor's note, any of it. And I haven't seen one member of the mainstream American fight press pushing for that. So whether Keith Thurman was really injured or this was a masterful bait and switch pulled, either way, they were able to get Sebastian Fundora coming off a devastating knockout loss, a whole year layoff, and get him into a title unification fight. And yes, one of them was vacant. The interim belt he was going to fight for on the undercard became the full belt for him in the main event. This just shows, again, management and how that can change your fortunes as a fighter. If you have people who are plugged in and can manipulate the sanctioning organizations, they control the media and basically bully people into asking hard questions, like you can really get yourself lined up in a good spot. And credit to Fundora. Look, did he get a little lucky with the cut? Yeah, sure, fine. But let's give the kid credit. He showed up. He fought the best fight of his career tactically. He stayed long behind the jab and just jabbed the shit out of Tszyu's cut for 10 rounds. And he won the belts. And now he's a unified champion. So props to him. Okay, also on this card, Isaac Cruz, TKO 8 win over Rolando Romero. Is anyone surprised at this? Rolando Romero is not a top 10 fighter. He never has been, never will be. That's no disrespect to him. He's just not. And this was the most prepared, the most well-prepared he's ever been for a fight. I thought he had a good training camp and everything from all the indications I saw and everything that I was told. But he's just not that level of prize fighter. So it's funny because, again, full circle with the Tank Davis thing, they really needed to bump Raleigh up in people's minds to justify this dude headlined a pay-per-view with Tank, okay? And now you see the level of fighter he is. So anyway, this didn't surprise me at all. Irislandy Lara, KO2 win over Michael Zarafa. Sergey Bohacek, unanimous decision over Brian Mendoza. He wins an interim 154 belt and figures to be in the mix at some point to finally get a crack at either Sebastian Fundora or maybe a Fundora and Tszyu fight again, and Tszyu wins. He gets a crack at him. But Bohacek, I felt bad for him that he got out of that Fundora fight because I thought that would have been it was actually the fight I was looking forward to most on that card. I thought it'd be the best fight. But props to him, stayed the course. Last minute replacement opponent, Brian Mendoza, who had scored a big KO win, either in his last fight or the fight before those last fight. And Bohacek beat him. So credit to him. Okay, that same day, Saturday, March 30th, in Inglewood, California, Gilberto Ramirez wins a WBA cruiserweight belt. It's interesting that Zerto started at 168, right? And now he's fighting at cruiserweight, and he completely filled in at cruiserweight. Like he belongs in that division. I don't know how that dude ever made 168. I don't even want to know what they did to get him to make 168 and what kind of health effects it might have on him in the future. It's scary because he's a full-grown cruiserweight. Like, he's legitimately a 200-pounder. That division, I talked about, the cruiserweight division is a mess. But look, if Zurdo Ramirez can go on a run here and collect a couple of those belts, maybe 2 or 3 of the belts, I'm just saying, okay? Do I like him to beat Opataya? Absolutely not. I don't. But let's just say he can go on a little run here. The division will heat up a little bit. When you have a good-looking Mexican kid who has a belt and he's competing in a division, it's healthy for the division, okay? That's just the way the demos of boxing work right now. So it's very interesting that he's just never broken through and become a popular fighter. And I think some of it's inactivity, some of it is his style. Maybe at cruiserweight, he's found the right place and he can go on a run here and realize his full potential, at least from a branding perspective. We'll see. Sunday, March 31st, Fabio Wardley and Fraser Clarke, a 2020 Olympian, fought to a split draw in London. This was a really interesting heavyweight fight. Clarke was down in the 5th round, deducted a point in the 7th round for low blows. Whenever you see 2 young heavyweight prospects or any weight prospects going at it like this and they have a really close fight, dude, my thing is run it right back. Run it right back. Wait till everyone's healed up, the cuts are healed, and run it back. I'd love to see this fight again later this year. Thursday, April 4th, I have to mention this. There was a Golden Boy card in, I think it was Indio, California, which is, a couple hours in from the coast. And Patricio Manuel, who is a biological female competing as a man in boxing, was knocked out in 21 seconds. Now, to be clear, this was Manuel's 4th pro fight. Manuel had a legitimate amateur career and fought well in the amateurs. Manuel, again, biological female. I'm not sure what pronouns I'm supposed to use, so I'm just going to refer to this person as Patricio Manuel because I don't want to screw it up. This person underwent surgery and extensive hormone therapy about a decade ago. It was a while ago to, quote unquote, become a man, to live as a man, and has lived that way really for the last decade. So post-op for like a decade. And as a pro has fought as a man. Won first 3 fights of their career by decision, I believe, and then stepped up a little bit in opposition with this fight. This opponent, while he's not an elite level opponent, he was certainly more accomplished than the other 3 fighters Manuel had fought as a pro. And the results were pretty shocking. Now, I tweeted about this, and I didn't respond to any responses to my tweet, but I just put it out there because I said what happened. I put a typo in it. I said that the fight was on a Saturday. It was on a Thursday. But other than that typo, I left it very, very open because I wanted to hear everyone else's thoughts. Because I ended my tweet with, I don't know what to think about this, or I don't know how to feel about this. And here's why I said that. I've made it very, very clear on my profile that anytime a biological man wants to compete against women, I am 100% against that. No exceptions ever, particularly if it's martial arts, boxing, MMA, wrestling, whatever. I think it's disgusting that that's even allowed. It's insane, actually. As the father of 2 daughters, yeah, that's pretty crazy. I am vehemently against that because it doesn't matter what hormone therapy or whatever the man is taking to live as a woman. He still has a biological competitive advantage just because of genetics. There are only 2 genders, guys. I was present for every ultrasound my wife got with my 2 kids, and the nurse will tell you, oh, it's a girl. They do blood work and they say, oh, to verify it, it's a girl, right? There's only 2. And so anyway, I'm not saying that in a political sense. I'm saying it in a scientific sense. So if you're a guy, if you're born a man, you have different bone structure. Your knees and ankles are built differently. Your lung capacity is different. You burn energy differently. You have so many things that you have just natural inherent advantages. If you compete against women, I'm just against that. But in this particular case, just listen for a second. On the surface, now, look, would I support this? No. Would I want my daughters competing against men in boxing? Absolutely not. But in terms of fair sport, Patricio Manuel had no biological competitive advantage against their opposition. In fact, Manuel was at a biological disadvantage. Okay, so there's nothing unfair about it. This person was choosing to compete against people that have a biological advantage over them. Do you allow that or not? We can debate it. But in terms of fair sport, that was not being violated here. Sometimes, though, if you're the regulating authority, you have to save a person from themselves, right? How often do I talk about that on this show? You talk about fighters who are well past their best and keep fighting on, and there are these commissions that allow these guys who are punch drunk to keep on fighting, and they become just shells of themselves as human beings, right? I talk about that a lot. Sometimes you have to save people from themselves, and maybe the commission should have stepped in here and said, listen, we're not cool with you fighting against biological men. Maybe that could have protected this person. But then there's the part of me that I'm very American, and America, our greatest right is the right to the pursuit of happiness, whatever that means to you, and freedom. And if this person, if this was their pursuit of happiness, and there was no competitive advantage, no unfair advantage, I don't know, maybe there was nothing wrong with it. One last point, though, I'll add to this, so then I'll move on. Hormone therapy. If a biological male or biological female fighter, just regular fighter competing in their division, takes hormone therapy and gets caught doing that, they get suspended. Their fight's canceled. If they find out after a fight, the results maybe changed of the result. It might be a no contest or something. And then they're suspended. They get reprimanded for that. But in this particular case, Patricio Manuel is allowed to do hormone therapy. So you're allowing someone to inject testosterone into their body and who knows what else to live as a man and compete against men who naturally have testosterone, yes, but not the amount that Manuel's being injected with. So maybe there is an unfair competitive advantage in that regard, because they're allowing this person to take hormone therapy and compete. And for the other 99.999% of fighters, that is illegal. So you're giving a special exception to this very small group of people that may or may not lead to an unnatural, unfair competitive advantage, even if it's a female fighting against men. So I just want to put all that out there for you guys. Again, that's one where, there's a lot of arguments in both directions on that. Again, men competing against women, that's cut and dry. It should never happen. But this, I don't know. Anyway, last Saturday, April 6th, Richardson Hitchens scores a unanimous decision win over Gustavo Lemos in a junior welterweight eliminator. The scores. Now, I don't think people were that mad that Hitchens got the win. A lot of people thought Lemos won, okay? But Hitchens getting a narrow win. So two of the judges had this 115-113, but one for Hitchens, one for Lemos. But Judge Tim Cheatham had it 117-111. That pissed a lot of people off because this did not feel like a 9-3 kind of fight. And I liked him. I've interacted with him. I've talked with him. And at one point, I thought he was really one of the best young judges in boxing. It was good to see a younger guy who's not like 80 years old judging fights. But he's had a couple of scores in recent years where I'm just like, Tim, what did you see on this night, dude? What did you see? 117-111. That's not what this fight was. This was a 115-113 kind of fight. Total punches. 172 landed for Hitchens, 161 for Lemos. Hitchens was more accurate, Lemos more active. So again, it was one of those things. What do you prefer? Do you prefer the guy who's more accurate, maybe landing the harder shots, or the guy who's more active and is pressing the fight? Either way, clearly it was a close fight. So I think a lot of people just had an issue with that scorecard. Okay, preview. This Saturday, we'll talk a little bit about this Saturday and then next Saturday. This Saturday, April 13th in Manchester, England, Matchroom on the zone as a card. Jordan Gill fighting Zelfa Barrett, who is from Manchester, so he'll have the hometown support in a 12-round junior lightweight fight. And then there's 2 female title fights on that card as well. And then here in America and in Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas, to be exact, Top Rank on ESPN, Jaron Ennis, big baby, his first fight since last summer. Almost a year out of the ring. I think it's been like 8-9 months, something like that. And there's been legal issues. There's been all kinds of crazy stuff going on in his social life. Hard to know what to make of this guy. Talent-wise, potential-wise, through the roof. You know, a lot of people, including myself, have been very excited about Anderson as being a potential American heavyweight champion. But with all this stuff going on, I just don't know what to make of this guy right now. I don't know if we can take him seriously. Hopefully he can work this stuff out. But he's going up against a Belgian-based fighter. I believe it's Belgium. Riyad Merhi, who has a very poor resume, has fought mostly in Belgium. So you got to favor Anderson in this fight to take care of business, to knock off some rust, and then hopefully he's right back in the ring. I think when you have a guy like this that has a troubled social life, a troubled personal life, I think the best thing a promoter can do is just keep him in the ring. And if he fights guys at this level and he fights 5 times this year, I'm good with it. The kid's still, 23 or something? He's young. Just keep him in the ring, and that will keep him out of trouble. That's my advice, my unsolicited advice to Top Rank here. Also on this card, F.A. Ajagba versus Guido Vianello. This is an interesting fight. Both of these guys have 1 loss, but Vianello's is much worse. And Ajagba has the better resume overall. He's fought better opposition. He's defeated better opposition. So, but just in terms of styles, Vianello probably has a good shot here. But I think based on the resumes and the power, you got to favor Ajagba if he can land that big shot. But that's going to be a fun fight. I actually think that fight's going to steal the show. That's the fight I'm looking forward to the most. And then Ruben Villa going up against Christian Cruz Chacon, his first fight outside Mexico, a 10-round featherweight fight. Okay, then next weekend, it's the big one between Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Now, I heard this show isn't particularly selling that well at the box office. I don't think that's really surprising. You have 2 West Coast fighters fighting in Brooklyn, just outside of New York City. I don't know, half an hour. I think Barclays is like half an hour outside of New York City and Brooklyn. And like on the surface, okay, cool. You're trying to expand, Ryan Garcia's brand and Devin Haney's brand over in New York. Okay, I get that. But Ryan Garcia, the last time, look, I know he got a win last time he was in the ring, but the last time he was in the ring against a guy with a pulse, he was destroyed. Gervonta Davis destroyed him, right? There wasn't a close fight. Ryan Garcia might have won a round or something early on, and then Davis took over. And then Devin Haney, while he was the undisputed lightweight champion, but a lot of people thought he lost that fight. A lot of people, at least half of the people out there that I've seen in social media, felt he lost that fight to Lomachenko, which there'd be nothing wrong with losing to Lomachenko. There's no shame in that. But either way, he was the legitimate undisputed lightweight champion, now holds a belt at 140, but he's not the most exciting fighter. He's just not the most dynamic, fun. Gervonta Davis, say what you will about him and his personal life and all that and his level of opposition, whatever. He's exciting to watch. And Devin Haney just isn't. So I think there's a lot of fans who are like, I could go, over to Queens and watch a Mets game, or I could go over to the city and watch a Yankee game, or I can buy tickets to this fight. think I'm going to go to the Yankee game. I think that's what a lot of people are telling themselves. Look, they're going to sell the tickets. They're going to lower the prices. They'll get people in there, even if they have to kind of paper it a little bit. There will be a crowd to watch this fight, okay? But some of the ticket prices I saw were just ridiculous. And I'm like, what do these guys think? Do they know who watches boxing? And especially if you're going to Brooklyn. There's hipster, douchey Brooklyn, but then there's working class Brooklyn. Like, you're charging like Vegas prices in Brooklyn, dude. Like, people go to Vegas expecting to spend a lot of money for a fight, but not in a regular place like Brooklyn. I don't know. Sometimes the people that run boxing just don't make any damn sense. It's like, do you guys know the business you work in? But look, when they have the high prices early on, there are some suckers who buy those tickets early on, grossly overpay. And so the promotion makes a lot of money on those guys. Then they drop the prices, and the smart fans, generally speaking, the diehard fans, that's when they start to buy in. And then overall, the promoters do okay, I guess. So I guess that's maybe the strategy. Anyway, the fight itself, despite all the crazy stuff you've seen from Ryan Garcia on social media, and I know he's kind of all over the place, I get all that, but I expect a fully healthy 100% version of Ryan Garcia in this fight. Listen, dude, no excuses now. There's no catch weight. There's no rehydration clause. They're not controlling what you can eat, drink, all that stuff. This dude, there's no excuses here. You're 100% at your physical best and your most strong, healthy self. No injuries. So I don't want to hear a damn excuse from Ryan Garcia or his side should this fight not go their way. I expect them to be 100%. I expect him to look a lot better than he looked against Gervonta Davis, in fact. Obviously, Devin Haney, I expect him to be 100%. He always is when he shows up in the ring. So I look at these two guys. Devin Haney is a guy where boxing is his life. It's all he has. It's what he is. He lives it. He breathes it. And it's been that way since he was a kid. He was kind of forced into it by his father, and he's been in it, been in the system. He's an establishment system guy since he was a kid, since he was in the amateurs. For Ryan Garcia, I think that he was once very passionate about boxing, but now as an adult, he's more, and this isn't a knock on him, okay, but he's more of a social media celebrity / influencer, whatever terms you want to use, than fighter. He is a fighter. He's a legitimate fighter, okay? He's not Jake Paul. Ryan Garcia came up in the amateurs. He's a legitimate prize fighter. I want to make sure that I get that clear. But do I think Ryan Garcia is as serious and dedicated and disciplined about his craft as Devin Haney? No, clearly not. Clearly, Devin Haney is way more dedicated to boxing 24/7 than Ryan Garcia. And that alone might be the X factor in this matchup. So if this fight goes to the cards, there is absolutely no way Ryan Garcia can win a decision. You're not going to win a decision against Devin Haney. I understand the idea of taking this fight out of Vegas because you're never going to win a decision against Haney in Vegas. You take it out to New York, okay, maybe the scorecards will be a little more fair. You're not going to get a decision, dude. The only way Ryan Garcia wins this fight is by knockout. He does have the ability to knock Devin Haney out. Ryan Garcia has the speed. He might be the faster of the two. We'll see, but he might be the faster of the two. He's certainly the more explosive, athletic, more power punching fighter between the two. Haney obviously is way, way more crafty, more skilled, all of that. So I think that Ryan Garcia has a legitimate chance to maybe catch Haney with something, maybe that inside real tight left hook. If Haney loops a right hand just a little bit, and Ryan Garcia can get inside of that with that tight little left hook he throws, maybe he can get something done. Maybe, particularly early on. Again, against Tank, he had some early success. He was actually boxing okay in the first couple rounds before he got clipped. Maybe he can pull something off here. That is possible, okay? But in life, you have possibility and probability. Now, increasingly in our culture, our media, our so-called elites of our society are hyper-obsessing over the possibility, right? The anomaly. But the way real life works for those of us on the ground, living real lives, it's about what's probable. It's about what's really going on and what you're probably going to see. So what's probable in this fight is Devin Haney wins by decision. He boxes Ryan Garcia's ass off, potentially stops him late, but I don't see that happening because Garcia is healthy. Should Garcia be 100% mentally involved, I see this going to distance. Devin Haney winning a decision. I don't think that result would surprise any of you, right? Okay, that's what I see in that one. We'll see how it plays out. I hope that it's a good fight because it kicks off what we're going to have in May, right? So if this fight goes well between Haney and Garcia, a couple weeks later, boom, we get Canelo, and then this whole awesome schedule rolls out. It could be good. It could be real good. So I hope we get a good fight here. Super chat from 99 Red Pills Go By. Thank you so much. She says, 5 quid to one of the good guys in boxing. I appreciate that, brother. Thank you so much. Awesome. All right. Let's jump to a few phone calls. I'm not going to take a whole bunch. All right. We'll keep these relatively quick, but we'll take a few. All right. Let's start over in the UK. I think this is Hamed. Hamed, is that you, brother?
Yes, Mike. It's been a while. How's it going?
It's going, man. It's going. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's good to hear you again because, what is it? You haven't done a show for a couple of weeks, but
yeah,
I managed to catch PBC card. I heard some of your views on it. I thought overall it wasn't a bad card, so I ended up paying for it. Like when Thurman pulled out, I was thinking about this is probably better, like a better fight, and
absolutely.
The card I thought was better.
Yeah, you're right.
But with Thurman, I was not going to pay for it. I thought Thurman and Tszyu was kind of a letdown of a main event for the pay-per-view card. But how did you score that fight? Because I thought Tszyu edged it. I will be honest, I haven't rewatched it. I'll try and rewatch it because I still got the Fight TV app. But I wasn't mad at the decision, but I thought Tim might have edged it, even with all the blood and all the cuts.
Yeah, I think it's a very fair question, Ahmed, and I agree with you that it really, truly, to be cliche, it was one of those fights that could have went in either direction. I am big on scoring the jab. I am a big proponent of the jab, and so Fundora jabbed Tszyu's butt off, and I am totally cool with him getting the decision. It was a 115-113 fight either way.
Yeah, on a draw. You could probably...
Yeah, of course. A draw may have been the most just... Maybe that's what we should have saw, was a draw.
Yeah. To me, it was a bit fishy, though, how Fundora got the title shot after coming off a KO loss. And then he was elevated. The fight was for 2 belts. Like I thought if Tszyu was not set up, he was kind of put in a place where they did everything they could to get the 2 belts in-house, which Absolutely. They managed to do. And it looks like they're trying to get, Errol Spence, the title shot. That's the part that I didn't like. And when the fight ended, I don't know about your opinion with Devin Haney. I think Ryan Garcia could win a decision because he's with Golden Boy. But when that fight ended between Tszyu and Fundora, I thought there's no way in hell Fundora is going to lose a decision on a PBC card. Granted, it was a split decision. Those cards weren't off base. I just thought it was a bit predictable. Like when the Hitchens fight, which I didn't watch, to me, that reeks of corruption. Like, what is it, 117, 111?
Yes.
Like, that's where I think people have a right to be mad about because That's a card that was, I think, filled in before the fight even started.
Yeah, well, here's the difference between Garcia and Haney. I know it's a Golden Boy fighter, Golden Boy card. I get all that, but Haney's American, just like Garcia is. So it's two Americans. If it was Garcia versus a Australian fighter, which we saw with Fundora and Tszyu, then I'd agree with you that Garcia can get a decision. I don't think in a close fight, I just don't think he's going to get the nod over Devin Haney, even on a Golden Boy card. And it's a cross promotion. So that's just how I see it. But we'll see how it plays out.
But I understand what you said, but I remember when he fought Joseph Diaz and when he fought Jorge Linares. Those are Golden Boy fighters. If I'm correct, I don't think either one of those fights were close fights, especially the Linares fight. I think Linares went 2 or 3 rounds late. But if I remember, those scorecards were quite close. I think especially the Diaz fight. That was fairly competitive, you could argue. But I think with Garcia, I think he got more right than us. If I'm wrong, because a lot of people do think Haney got the fever in his fight against Loma, which I think, that's a fair argument. But I just feel like with this fight, I think Garcia's got more invested. Golden got more invested in Garcia.
Of course. And, that's a good point. I mean, he's their guy. He's their number one fighter, in terms of he keeps them in the black every year. He's the guy that like funds their whole operation. So yeah, in that regard, you're absolutely correct.
Yeah, but before I get to one thing, I have spoken to him on the spaces a couple of times. A lot of the people he does speak to, I don't think when they're asking him questions, especially boxing related, they're not asking him the correct questions, or they just, they know of just speaking to him. But to me, he has been acting a bit erratic. Like the other day, I'm pretty sure if he was not drunk on the spaces, he was off his head, he was singing, and he did not sound right. And some of the stuff he's been posted as well, I don't know, if you're drinking with, less than a week out from your fight, I got to question his mentality or where he is, because he said before the Tank fight, he knew that he was going to lose that fight. So, I don't know, is he turning up for just a paycheck? You're saying you think he's going to be the best version. I'm not sure, maybe in terms of weight and all that, but mentally, I don't know. I think he was maybe in a better place before the Tank fight.
I think just looking, again, I'm just playing psychologist here. Of course, we can never know, but based on everything I've heard, both on the record and especially off the record, I think that he kind of made that deal with Gervonta Davis and did that fight for the money. It was a huge opportunity for him. He made an insane amount of money, and it was just a big commercial opportunity. And that's why he was so willing to, cut the weight, do all those different things because of the money thrown at him. I think this is a little different. There's not going to be as much money in this fight as there was with Gervonta Davis. They're not going to do the same pay-per-view numbers. I think it'll do okay, but it's not going to do what he did with Tank. I think he views this fight as being more winnable. He has history with Haney in the amateurs. They fought multiple times. I think they split all their fights. So these guys know each other.
3-3,
yeah. They know each other pretty well. Look, maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe we're going to see a complete meltdown like Oliver McCall had against Lennox Lewis in their rematch. Maybe we'll see something crazy like that. But I'm going to be positive and optimistic, and I'm going to just think that we're going to see the best version of both of these young fighters, and I hope we get a great fight.
Yeah, that's possible. I think Haney will win, and I think Haney, if he doesn't stop him, I think he may punish him late. I just got a feeling either Garcia will quit again or get stopped somehow late. He could go the distance, which is probably a safe bet, but that's my hunch. I just don't think he's as dedicated or in the same place as some of these other young fighters like KD is or Teofimo Lopez. Before I go, what do you think Terence Crawford will do? Is there anything line, do you think? Because he was meant to fight Tszyu, but that Tszyu fight is not going to happen next.
Yeah, man, Crawford can't catch a break. I certainly don't think he's going to fight Jaron Ennis. And like he could do a mandatory fight in his hometown and just to stay busy. But I think he's at a point in his career where he wants big money fights. And I honestly see him dumping the belts and going to 54 and looking for there's 2 other belts. They're with Charlo. Maybe he can still fight Charlo. Maybe they can get that done.
Charlo doesn't have any belts. Charlo doesn't have any belts.
He's lost them all now? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay.
Jack Kelly fought that guy from the PBC. I can't pronounce his name. His background, I think, was something Mulazayev, or I can't pronounce. And Clarke got knocked out. So the IBF with.
Oh, you're right. Guy, that's right. Yeah.
Matchroom got the WBA title. Yeah.
Yeah, because they we were talking about that in the ratings committee.
They're talking about Josh Kelly and Crawford. I don't know. That's not, to me. That is not a big fight. Even in the UK, I don't think that's big. So I don't know why he won't look at the Boots fight, because he's still in possession of the belt. I know he wants to move up, but if he could just have one more fight at 147, or just think about it as an option, he should look at it, because the PBC are trying to get Fundora in with Spence.
Yeah,
so is he happy to
obviously what they're going to do.
Vacant belt?
Well, but look, Hamed,
if he's happy.
Hamed, if Fundora fights Spence, and if Spence is able to win that fight, which I think he'd be favored to, then you could do Crawford Spence 2 at 154 for the unified championship. So, I mean, well, we just got to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I agree. But I was saying, before that fight, he'd have to fight someone like Josh Kelly, or unless he could get Tszyu in for that vacant belt, which I don't think is possible. But yeah, I would look at the Boots fight. But I also thought Boots should have looked at moving up. I know he has a belt, but I thought there was more options for him at 54.
He might. He eventually will have to. He's huge for welterweight, so he's eventually going to be a middleweight. So he will move up at some point as all this plays out.
I do like that. I do like that signing, Mike. Before I go, I think Boots had got a bed. It reminds me of that fight between Porter and Brook. Not exactly the same, but it's one of those fights where I think it'll be a good fight between 2 fighters who are relatively untested. But I'll let you get to the other callers, Mike.
All right, thanks a lot, Hamed.
All right.
Have a great weekend. All right, let's jump to Nacho. Nacho, what's up, brother?
Hey, Mike, what's going on? Nothing much. I'm just going to touch on a few of the things you mentioned real quick. In regards to Tszyu Fundora, I kind of agree. The whole thing with Thurman and him not really coming out with any kind of proof of his so-called injury, it makes it really suspicious that Fundora was maneuvered into that title fight, especially when he had that fight against Boachuk already lined up. So it was just really weird how less than 2 weeks out, this guy hurts his arm, shows no proof of it, and yet everybody just automatically believes that he was really hurt. Like,
and the WBC really throws a title in, adds a title to the
exactly.
To the fight. It's kind of weird, man.
It just seems really, really suspect to say the least. But it is what it is. I kind of agree with what you said, although I feel, in my opinion, and nothing against Fundora, I think Fundora put up a really good fight. I just feel like he got a little bit of a break because of that cut over Tszyu's head. If that cut doesn't happen, I think Tszyu would have kicked his ass.
Oh, I agree.
And I think he was
going to
very
knock him
fortunate.
Out. Tszyu would have knocked him out.
Yeah, I think he was very fortunate to have gotten that cut on Tszyu's head that basically just made it almost impossible for him to be able to fight at 100%. I would like to see a rematch, but honestly, Mike, just knowing the PBC and their history, I just think they're going to figure out a way to not give Tszyu the rematch because they're just not interested in Tszyu as being part of their roster. They have their homegrown guys, and Fundora is one of them, and I just feel like they're going to try to maneuver their way out of having to give him a rematch, which means I think they're going to end up dumping the WBO belt and just keeping that BC belt. Do you think, Mike, and I personally don't think it'll happen, do you think Fundora fights Boachuk at any point?
That's a great question. Well, if he wants to keep that WBC title, he's going to have to, because Boachuk has the interim belt. Now, we know the WBC is in business with PBC, and they'll protect Fundora to a certain extent. But at some point, there's, Boachuk could pursue legal action. Like he will get a fight there. So I think it's very possible. We just got to see how it plays out. But I mean, he's going to have to, right?
I mean, you would hope so, but you never know. Like some of these promotional, the sanctioning bodies have these ways of worming their way out of lawsuits and figuring ways to not get sued.
Yeah.
So I really hope that Boachuk does get the shot, but yeah, we'll see what happens. With the Lemos Hitchens fight, I'm sorry, Mike, that fight was totally home cooking for Hitchens. There is no way that he won that fight. And then what's really interesting about the whole thing, Hitchens wins an eliminator for the IBF belt, which Subriel Matias has. But that dude is not interested in pursuing a fight against Subriel Matias anyway. So to me, it doesn't make sense that he participates in an eliminator against a champion that he's never going to face. So it just reeks of something happened behind the scenes that allowed this guy to walk away with a very suspect win, because I thought Lemos had done enough to win that fight. And the fact that guys like Hitchens and Shakur Stevenson and Devin Haney, they're kind of allowed to use this whole four corners offense and call it boxing. It's really bothersome, because I never understood how a guy basically refusing to engage and refusing to really throw any kind of punches, that all of a sudden that's considered great boxing. Like, to me, great boxing is what guys like Pernell Whitaker, James Toney, guys of that ilk did. This stuff that these guys are doing nowadays, I don't know what the hell you call it, but to me, that's not boxing. That's just straight out refusing to engage.
That's a great point. I completely agree with you. Yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And the fact that it keeps getting rewarded, that's just a black eye for boxing. That guys like this are keep getting wins for not engaging. It's like, come on, since when is that allowed? Since when is a guy not engaging being allowed to win fights? That's just tough. That's tough to believe that these judges are literally seeing something and calling it, they're calling that boxing. That's a really tough pill to swallow as a fan, to watch guys refusing to engage and getting rewarded with victories. I hope that at some point that stops, but I mean, right now it doesn't look like it is. It looks like guys are being rewarded for their negative styles. So, it is what it is. And then as far as the Haney Garcia fight, Mike, I think, and call me crazy, but I think Ryan Garcia and his team have been playing up this whole he's lost the farm angle.
I agree.
To try to convince Haney that they're not really training for the fight.
Yep.
And I think he's hoping that Haney and his team are feeling overconfident going into the fight, thinking they're going to let their guard down and they're not going to take us seriously, and we're going to catch them by surprise. Do you agree with that, Mike?
Completely agree with you, Nacho. I mean, if you just look at the timing of this thing, Ryan Garcia wasn't posting all this weird stuff before this fight was signed. He's always been kind of an odd, aloof kind of guy. I've talked about that in the past, but he's been acting crazy on social media. He tweeted something the other day. He's about Kanye West being gay, and he called him a butthole worshiper. What the hell is going on here? I honestly think he's trolling. I really do. Ryan Garcia, say whatever you will about him, his social media game is pretty on point. He understands how to use it to his advantage. He's made himself a millionaire just from social media. So yeah, I think he's trolling. Like I said, I expect a 100% version of him in the ring.
Yeah, because lately I've been seeing that these weird videos that he was doing at first were like, I don't know if you saw them, Mike. He was doing these weird ass videos with Derek James and Frank Martin in the camp. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And now lately he hasn't posted any of those videos. He's posted like regular videos where he's actually going through drills and he's doing mitts and everything. Yeah, regular drills. So I'm like, this dude's not crazy. He's just full of crap. Like, he's been trolling the whole time. Like, that's kind of what I figured. Like, he's hoping Haney would be dumb enough to fall for it. I think that's what he's been doing the whole time. So, you know, it's just kind of funny how he really thought that he could fool everybody, like thinking, oh, I'm not going to really train for this fight, and I'm going to let this guy think I'm nuts.
He did fool some people. Have you not seen, like, I've seen tweets from people like, oh my God, the commission should stop this fight. I mean, the commission even said he needs to get a health check, a mental health check. I think he's fooled a lot of people. Do I think he fooled the Haneys? No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing about that part, Mike, the mental health thing was, Steve Kim said that apparently he threatened to sue the New York State Athletic Commission if they tried to make him go through with it, and they backed off. So that's the only reason why he didn't do it. That's the only reason why he didn't do it. So to me, obviously, you know, he knew what he was doing, and I think he just wanted to kind of troll people and make sure that, you know, everybody fell for the okie doke. And I think kind of the Haneys are onto it, and I think they know, like, this guy's he's not, you know, doing what he's doing for no reason. So, you know, I mean, I agree with you, Mike. I hope we get a good fight. But honestly, I don't know, man. Like, I'm a little concerned that those two guys' styles are not going to mesh well, and we might end up getting kind of an awkward, clunky fight. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
You might be right about that.
I'm hoping, like, I'm hoping that you're right. I'm hoping that we get somewhat of a competitive, entertaining fight. I'm just not seeing it based on the way both guys fight. Haney doesn't really like to engage on the inside. He likes to stick and move and stay on the outside. Garcia's kind of the same way. He doesn't really have much of an inside game. He prefers to box from mid-range to the outside. So I don't know, man. I'm worried that it's going to be an awkward, clunky fight, and it's not going to be very appealing, you know? So, all right, Mike, that was my call. I'll talk to you next time.
All right, thanks, Nacho. Have a good one, bro. All right, we're going to take one more call, guys. I like this comment from I am Dwayne this time. He says, Ryan Garcia ain't crazy. He's just weird. Exactly. He's just kind of a weird guy. You know, I'm not saying that to put him down. It's just, he's just kind of a weird guy. All right. We're going to take one more call. All right. And then we're going to bounce. We're going to take Thad here. Thad, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Hey, thanks for squeezing me in, Mike. Yeah, I agree with Nacho. The four corners in boxing needs to end. We saw NHL hockey ban the zone trap, which totally ruined the game. It was the same thing as what we're seeing in boxing with the stall out, you know, holding and running style and scoring points in that manner by not fighting, holding your other opponent to not fighting. And in basketball, the four corners stalling tactic where you throw the ball around, you run the clock out, and you wait to the end of the quarter to finally take a shot. That's what Haney, Richard Hitchens, Zahir Rahim did to Eric Morales. He got a decision in Vegas somehow doing that. I can go on and on. But this is an epidemic. This is going to ruin the sport, not only with the corruption. Boxing has to do something, and by what I mean do something, penalize holding when it's unnecessary, when you are obstructing your opponent from working inside. The clinch should only be valid when both fighters are willing to clinch. Okay? Other than that, it's an advantage for a fighter that's clinching and holding because they don't want to fight. And number two, with the judges, if you see a fighter holding excessively, you don't give them the freaking round. It means they don't want to fight and they're losing. But I think this Mayweather era changed judging for the worse. So this is why we're seeing these fights end up in the hands of a guy that, you know, doesn't want to engage. And they're penalizing the actual fighter that's doing damage. and they're scoring it like an amateur fight back in the day. That's how Henry Tillman beat Mike Tyson in the amateurs twice. Tyson hurt him the whole fight, but Tillman scored more points. But who is the real better fighter?
Right.
Okay, so yeah, if you adjust the 10-point must system and tweak it, where it's uncorruptible, if there's going to be a way where all three judges can unanimously score, say round one was all three judges, well, you get a +1 added onto the card. If it was split, then there's no +1. Okay, and you do that, and maybe that could help. You know, it's all mathematical, you know, with these scorings, but you know, even with that, you know, you still can, you know, buy off judges, because you know what we've seen the last 2 weeks in Las Vegas. It's corruption, flat out. And I warned Tszyu on your show. I know he wasn't listening, but I said, hey, you better not go to the cards in this fight, or they're going to rob you. They're going to rob him, and they did. I knew it in the third round. I told everybody I couldn't bet the fight because BetMGM didn't have live odds because it was at the MGM. So that was a real pisser. But man, what a disaster in Las Vegas! What a disaster.
If I were
Mike, do you have
if I were a non-American fighter, I would not fight in Vegas unless I were willing to do it solely for the money.
Right.
With Golovkin and Canelo,
right.
That rematch happened in Vegas because Golovkin basically and his team, I'm not saying this to put anyone down, but they were like, we might get screwed again, but we're making unbelievable money here, and we're not going to make that if we go to Texas or whatever. So that's what became more important, and they were confident enough that they could still win the fight, obviously. But other than that, and that the four corners offense, real quick, you know, if a guy from the Ukraine or Nigeria or Korea or Nicaragua was in America fighting an American with the four corners offense, there is no way in hell they're getting the decision. That style of fighting goes in one direction with the judges. It's always the American fighter that gets the nod. So that's my biggest issue with it. It's not exciting. Fans don't want to watch it. That's why guys like Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson don't really do big ratings. But more than that, it seems to be biased. Like, oh, that's the American style. Is it really? I can name hundreds of great American fighters who didn't fight anything like that. So Nacho mentioned names like James Toney, Pernell Whitaker, right? Thomas Hearn, Sugar Ray Leonard. I can keep going. So yeah.
Toney was a defensive fighter. He fought in the pocket. He made you miss, and he made you pay. Same with Pernell. They weren't runners. They were fighters. They were boxers, man.
Chris Bird would stand there with guys that were a foot taller than him and hang with them in the pocket.
Exactly. You know, that wasn't the running coward style that we see today that's embraced. It's like the minimal process. It's like do the least and expect the best. And I think that has a lot to do with the culture in America today. And it's in boxing right now. It's a parasite. It needs to go. It really does. We need to clean this sport up in America because the American fighter, it's an embarrassment. I'm sorry. And if you're an American fighter, you should call it out too and say, guys like Haney and Hitchens and all these guys, you're an embarrassment to me. Okay? And start calling them out because it's not a sport anymore. Nobody wants to pay to see that crap. Hell no. It's just blasphemous. In Las Vegas, they exacerbate it. Kovalev, Ward, Golovkin, Canelo, Haney, Lomachenko, and I could go on and on and on. Why is it always consistent? You know, I mean, how they score fights like that? It's absolutely disgusting. And Tszyu, he brought it upon himself by hanging out with PBC.
Yeah.
His own fault. Sergey Boachuk, you could win as many interim titles as you want. The WBC will never give you an opportunity to fight for that belt. Same way they did Dylan White when he was that mandatory for Wilder, and same way for the guy who was Adonis Stevenson's mandatory for all those years. He was like 5 years, and he finally beat Kovalev.
I don't think he ever fought a mandatory. It was insane. It was just insane.
No, he fought once, I think, against Tony Bellew. I think that was his only mandatory in 7 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So this is Boachuk. You better not even count on getting a shot. Just look at your buddy Adames. He's not getting a shot either. It's the same thing. It's politics. But Mike, before I let you go, I want to talk about this Terrence Crawford and Madrimov. If that fight gets made by the Saudis, my God, thank you. That's going to be that's a true 50-50 fight. I'm sure that the odds makers would probably open Crawford up as a slight favorite. But Madrimov is all wrong for Crawford. And the only thing is his experience level. Would he be able to overcome, those moments where in a superstar atmosphere, he'd be able to pull through and win on the cards, or by, I don't know if he's going to stop Crawford, but it's a possibility. But would he have that extra something a fighter needs to become great, like Bivol will need against Beterbiev? He's going to have to step it up one more notch. That would be my question with Madrimov. Can he step it up one more level to win that fight? And if the Saudis make it, my God. Same thing with Crawford versus Alvarez. I want to see that fight now. Originally I'm like, nah, I don't want to see it. Now a lot of people are saying Crawford could beat Canelo, okay, because of what he did to Spence. Spence was he wasn't all that good to begin with, okay? Canelo would walk through Crawford. He'd walk him down. It would be the same. It'd be similar almost like to Lomachenko-Rigo. I didn't want to watch that fight. I didn't want to see that fight, but they had to make it because so many people are saying Rigo's going to bust this guy up. Well, I think people are saying Crawford is going to bust Canelo up. I think Canelo should fight him. I think I'd rather see that fight than the Benavidez fight, because quite honestly, I think Benavidez is a light heavyweight.
Yeah.
At this point,
I would too.
There's too many mixed signals there. Just let Benavidez fight the light heavyweights. I think he could lose against Vodzik. I think Vodzik gives him a boxing lesson, to be quite honest. I think the guy is overrated. And, him being drunk at the pay-per-view event is only indicative of the lack of discipline. I know that some of these fighters have today. When you're drinking alcohol during camp, and you're trying to lose weight, that's the worst thing for you, man. Boozing up. I mean, having a couple beers is one thing, but getting drunk, come on. So, that's going to be a fight I'm going to be betting on Vodzik. At a 6-1, he's a 6-1 underdog. So, that's something you look for in fighters where there's a weakness.
How are you betting next weekend with Haney Garcia?
Haney, there's no value. Haney's a 10-1 favorite. He should not be a 10-1 favorite. He opened up at 6-1. They made it 10-1 because of all this hubbub about Garcia. The way I see this fight, it's like Nacho said, it's a bad style matchup. They fought 6 times in the amateurs. 4 corners boxing, man. I don't think Garcia has he doesn't have the experience level to make Haney fight him. I think Garcia will he'll overextend trying to land the big punch. I think Haney will pick him apart from the outside. Haney's still the bigger guy, even though Garcia's puffed up pretty well. He's got that puffy look now. That shows that he's a drinker too.
Oh,
you can tell all the alcoholics, man, they got that puffy gut and everything. And Haney, it's one thing about Haney. He's a consummate professional. This guy's always in shape. That's his strong point. That's where he's always going to be at the top level. He's always in shape. Okay. He'll blow up afterwards. I saw he was like 210 pounds after the Lomachenko fight, but he's disciplined enough to get down in weight. So, I don't think Garcia has that experience level to make him fight him, because that's how you beat Haney. You make him fight. Lomachenko did that. He had the blueprint, but Lomachenko, obviously he didn't get the decision, but he's not big enough anyway to really punish a guy like Haney. You need a little bit more length and size, right? Literally a featherweight fighting Haney's a natural junior middleweight.
Yeah.
No, he's a natural junior middleweight. He is. He's a junior middleweight. He actually shrimps Terrence Crawford.
Yeah.
Crawford's a natural welterweight. Haney's a natural junior middleweight. He walks around in the 180s. I mean, it's amazing. That's what Snap does, boy. They deserve an award for what they do to get these guys cut in weight, like Benavidez too. Oh my God. But I don't see any value betting that fight unless you're betting on Garcia. But
Yeah, I guess
gotta
that'd
be
be the only bet,
a
right?
problematic better.
If you got some money to throw away and you're like, maybe he'll pull it off. You get 10-1 odds. Other than that, stay away from it, huh?
The only value there probably is Haney by stoppage if Garcia quits after 8 rounds or 9 rounds, because he's not stable. Yeah. That's where you would find value in that. But there's so many other fights to bet. Honestly, Mike, I have a problem with the Lomachenko and Kambosos fight. Looking close at that, it looks too easy for Lomachenko. He's going to be off a year. He's 36. He's a featherweight. And one thing about Kambosos, he is a big lightweight, and his wheelhouse is fighting guys that come right at him. I don't know if Loma's going to have that same speed and agility, to get away with it anymore at lightweight. That's a trouble fight. Lomachenko's 7-1 favorite. Oh, I don't know, man. In Australia, in his hometown, I don't know. You could see some home cooking there.
That's a very good point.
Throw a couple bucks on.
That's a very good point.
If you throw a couple bucks on a draw or Kambosos by a split decision, that might be some value. I wouldn't bet that fight, but because there's no value in it unless you're going the Kambosos way. But Lomachenko better be careful, man. Coming off a heartbreaker against Haney, mentally it damages you. You believe you won the fight. People thought you won the fight. And you go into the next fight and you just can't be 100%. That's why Marvin Hagler retired after Leonard. It's too much of a mental breakdown when you get robbed.
Yeah.
So watch out for that fight. And then Usyk, if you're listening, you better not let it go to the cards. I don't think they're going to let you win by decision against Fury because I think they want that AJ. In fact, I know they want that AJ fight. But I think Usyk can really. He can really pull it off. I think he can stop Fury late, especially if Fury's coming in light. When you drop all those pounds like Riddick Bowe did against Galata the second fight, remember that, Mike? Mm-hmm. He was 260 versus Galata, and then for the second fight it was 235.
230 something, yeah.
And he was he was on weight 3-4 weeks out. He took off way too much weight. He looked very weak. Fury, I think probably, it's probably in his worst interest to shed weight like that because he's going to try to outbox Usyk. He's going to make Usyk come in. He's going to try to pick him off coming in. I don't think a lot of fighters tried that yet, except for AJ, and he got beat up. I think Fury's going to double down, and I think he's going to come in light, and I think he's going to fight Usyk southpaw to try to negate Usyk's advantage in that regard. And Usyk better be prepared to be the slugger in this fight. Like Sugar Ray Leonard was against Hearn. I think that's how he's going to have to win.
Interesting.
So, yeah, Mike. I guess you're short on time, and
I gotta jump.
We'll look forward to.
But good stuff, Thad.
Yeah, wait till May, man. We'll really get into it then, because
we'll have to do. We'll be doing weekly shows in May because it's just too good. I've already talked to my wife about it. It's listen, I'm gonna have to do weekly shows in May. There's just too much going on. But yeah, it's gonna be fun.
100%.
Cool.
And do one favor for me. If you ever win the lottery or come into money, have a masquerade ball at your house, for boxing, and then you could dress up as Joe Piscopo, and you could have that one guy, Jack Alter, right? I saw Jack Alter's video after the Hitchens fight, and he was spot on. He's like, man, he got robbed. He came in my feed, and I thought it was Luka Doncic from the Mavericks. I'm like, what the hell is Luka Doncic?
Yeah, he does kind of look like
talking about boxing. He looks exactly like Luka Doncic. I'm like, what the hell?
That's funny.
I think that's funny, but he's a good guy. I like watching his videos every now and again. But yeah, it caught me off guard. Honestly, I'm like, holy shit. So yeah, you guys have your costumes ready.
Cool. Perfect. All right, Dad. Have a good weekend, man. Brother.
All right, take care.
All
you
right.
too. Bye.
All right, guys. I got a bunch of you still on hold here. I can't get to all the calls, guys. I'm sorry. We'll do it again soon, I promise. And in May, we're going to have frequent shows because the schedule is just going to be too loaded, okay? But I probably won't see you guys until after the Haney Garcia fight. So maybe the end of April going into May. And then we'll have regular shows during that schedule because it's so amazing. Thank you guys for a great show, and have a great weekend. We'll do it soon.